Questions.
Okay, this is from Slingshot Gizzer.
Yeah, Geezer.
Gixer.
Jigsaw. Slingshot Jigsaw.
Jizzer.
Slab side.
Slingshot Jizzer. And this is when you were doing... do this when your vintage Harley loses all power.
Oh, that was the wiring one.
That's it.
Tracing the Earth.
Yeah, when the Earth was... great video. I should really check the earth ground on my WLA, make sure it isn't compromised. I find the battery terminals get furry quite quickly, even with the oil-soaked felts. Is this a 6-volt thing?
Yes, it can be, but generally it's because the battery, the dynamo generator, 3-brush generator, is putting too many amps back into the battery.
Okay.
Or your fluid levels are so low, it's dropped below the plates. It's called sulfating.
Right.
So if the fluid level's down below the lead plates inside the battery, it will do it. It doesn't matter what you do, it'll do it. But if it's putting too many amps in, it's not voltage, it's amps.
Yeah.
So check what it's putting out, and you can adjust that by your 3rd brush.
Oh, okay.
You just knock it down a little bit, so anti-clockwise. Just bring it back anti-clockwise a little bit.
And what is the fur that comes out?
It's called sulfating. It's your acid reacting with the lead on your terminals.
Right.
You see it on cars as well.
Yeah.
You put Vaseline on them, or they used to be able to buy the proper battery terminal stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, you mentioned that at the time. Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. It's like more of a browny colour, but any Vaseline or anything like that, smear some of that on, and it helps hold it back a bit more.
Okay. Dogpaw775 on the same video said, what's going through the carb on the checklist when you were trying to work out why there was no power? Would checking the carb be on that checklist?
Because there was no power, no. I knew it ran okay.
Yeah.
And I had it running the day before.
Right.
Probably on our checklist for getting the bike going, it probably was on there.
Yeah.
But if it runs, and it's a nice pickup and everything, really crisp.
Yeah.
So generally tend to leave it alone if it's okay,
So the carb wouldn't affect that
No.
power side?
Nothing to do with it, no.
Dave Co1270 on the same video again, he says...
Popular video.
Yeah. Do you guys know Dave Mitchell? I don't think it's too far from you, south of London. He works on vintage bikes. Has a YouTube channel? No,
not personally.
No, I did look him up, but it's not someone that I've really come across before. So
No.
This is from Bert Vandenbrink 3866. My 1951 WL Speedo drive worm gear is eaten every time I put a new one on. So I bought myself a new Speedo drive. Should the worm gear be greased before putting it into place?
Some say yes, some say no, because all the grease will do is attract anything that's worn.
Yeah.
Any chafing that comes off of it, even if it's a nylon gear or the brass gear one, the grease will make it stick to it, and that's going to wear it out quicker.
Right.
So some people say yes, some people say no. Most of it is trying to get it. All the reproduction units don't fit properly. You've got to. It's hard to do. Try and get it in and out correctly. Which, if everything measures up to spec on your hub, it should just fit straight in with the spacer, and you'd imagine it's right. But most of it is front to back adjustment. Because if you've got your little gear on the end of the Speedo drive, it goes in that way. If it's sitting that side of that cog, or that side of that cog, it'll chew it up.
Yeah.
It needs to be sitting dead on the centre. So normally you find the slot that's in the Speedo drive gear is machined in the wrong place.
Okay.
On the reproduction ones. So if you can find an original, even if it's knackered, and measure that slot, that's not. I've put them on the back before of the mounting plate. Should be on the front. I've put them on the back before. I put spacers in it and mounted them out further that way. It's just trying to get that right in the middle of that. Your tooth gear, say, is that long on the drive. You want it slap bang in the centre, but because you can't see it, I suppose you could make some sort of weird and wonderful jig up to try and hold it without the back plate in to see where it is, but you can't see it. Once the back plate's on, that's it, game over. So You can do it by feel. You slide it in and out and turn. You can just feel it. Less slack. Put it that way. More slack. They are just notoriously bad because over the years the hubs have been rebuilt. Your spacers are too small. Your bearing casings have moved in. Your backplate could be in there, out there. You know, it's very hard to know with it whether it's because your cog is circular that way, and your gear goes on it that way. It could be sitting that side, could be sitting that side, and again it can be sitting that way or that way. It's very hard to do it. It's another thing that might be worth making actually, some sort of jig for that. Because they chew through them. You do one in 2 days.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're terrible.
Oh God.
Because if it's not lined up, I think most of it probably is your backplate in and out. If you've got anything out of line in there and it's just prone, it's only that wide.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a small cog that's that wide and a ring cog that's that wide. If it's sitting to the side of that, well, half of it, it's just going to chew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very hard things to set up. Yeah.
So greasing it's not going to make any difference really, is it?
I don't think so, no, because all it's doing is once it's started wearing, the grease is just going to attract the bits that come off to the gear and probably make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
But the Repro ones, I've had them with the slots in all different places. Yeah. It's just another Harley quirk, you know.
Some slingshot gixer again. Is it always good practice to retard the ignition even when it's warm from running when starting?
Yes. Yeah, always. I mean, not so much on a WLA because they're very low compression. It's small CC. Try it on a big twin. You're going to hurt yourself because it'll kick back. Or you've got to be big enough to give it a proper kick all the way through, so the kick starts free on the bottom. But yeah, I mean, you know your bike. You get one backfire. All right, we know that starter gear was bad, produced, but that's what it's to stop. It's to stop it backfiring.
Yeah.
So if you got your timing wound up right on the point, yeah, it's always, even when it's hot, it'll do no harm to the bike.
Yeah.
It'll just make it easier to start every time. Yeah, it can't do any harm to it. We'll knock it back, kick it, bang, wind it back up again. It's, like I say, a lot of people just get on them and kick them. Fair enough, you know your bike. If you get any sort of kickback on it, yeah, always retard it.
John 7250. My 1943 WL transmission does not want to shift out of third gear without quite a bit of coaxing. Any ideas what's wrong?
Third gear, probably just the fingers need adjusting. It's either shimmed up wrong. Again, it's Harley gearboxes.
Yeah.
It's either shimmed up wrong or one of your shifter forks is bent or loose or needs shimming up properly.
Yeah.
You've got to get them, within a ballpark. They've got to be within 10th out. Not the shimming side of it has to be right. The finger adjustment, you've got a little bit of leeway in, but not a massive amount.
Yeah.
If you can get hold of your front sprocket and do that with it, it's never going to work. Don't matter what you do. You should have 7th hour, I think. No, it's 4th hour. 4th hour in and out. If you can move it 16th of an inch, ain't going to work.
No.
Because that then, if something's worn, your shimmers are worn, that offsets then your finger adjustment. It's all a knock-on effect for everything. Yeah, it shouldn't be difficult. The only other thing you can do is try loosening the indent ball a bit, see if it's snapped in so hard. Yeah, it could just be balancing on the edge of the indent ball. Yeah, just try loosening the indent ball a little bit, but generally it just needs shimming up properly.
Yeah.
And the fingers adjusting.
And if you're trying to get in and out of gear, it should be fingered.
Yeah, click.
Yeah. From Dan Hildreth. This is when you're working on the 1941 UL with a sidecar. Turned out great. Quick question, Fresh. I saw the battery and liked it. I need a new battery for the 41 and 42 WLAs and wondered who made that battery and if I could get them in the US. I have not had luck with batteries here, and one common battery here has a little red light off the side of the battery, which could cause me to cut the battery box, which I do not want to do.
That'll be a vent. Yeah, that'll be a vent. You have if you're not taking the plug out,
Yeah.
the red bit coming out, battery won't last 10 minutes.
Right.
It's got to have atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking the vent plug out, I know the bit he means, it comes out and you have a tube on it. I can't remember what batteries Wolfgang's had in it without going through the videos. I don't know, but we get them from, well, you just ordered one, haven't you? They're on eBay. You get them on eBay here easy enough, but whether they'll ship one continental, I don't know.
There's nothing special, are there? There's nothing...
22 amp hour, 6 volt Harley battery. But if you, again, that red bit that he's talking about, if you don't take that out, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
It won't last. It will work, but it won't last.
Randy Savello 64. This is when we're working on Alex's UL, I think.
Yeah.
He's asking, can you do a video on restoring and resetting the odometer on an antique Harley 48 Corbin speedometer? Would like to restore my own, thank you. But it's really, I mean...
I don't know a Corbin. They're all Stuart Warners as far as I'm aware. What year is it?
48.
It might be a Corbin.
Obviously, we've done some...
I thought Corbin were just aftermarket stuff. Yeah, you can certainly take them all apart.
I mean, obviously, we've done a bit of work on an odometer before.
Yeah, we changed the numbers on it, didn't we? Yeah.
Any pointers, though, you can think of?
Very small screwdrivers.
Steady hands.
A lot of patience. And do it in a tray. When you take one apart, there are some very, very, very small parts in there.
Yeah.
So do it in a big tray in the middle of it, because you can lose the parts very easily.
Yeah.
Prise the needle off very, very gently. The actual speedo, the way it works is the cable rotates an inner wheel, but the outer wheel has got a magnet in it.
Yeah.
So, but it's not a full-on magnet, if that makes sense. So the faster it goes, the inner wheel, it'll draw the magnet round to keep your speedo steady.
Right. Any do's and don'ts?
If it's really greasy, you've either got to dip it in a solution of solvent and leave it for a week, because if you squirt it, think, oh, that's free. As soon as that evaporates, the grease just goes more solid.
Really?
Yeah, so you're not winning at all. So unless you can actually leave it in a bucket of solvent, you know, like a good switch cleaner or something like that, to get all of the grease out of it, because I only ever put like sewing machine oil on. You're talking about a little tiny bearing, a little tiny spindle, a bit of dual bearing or something like that. People squirt with grease and all that. Worst thing you can do. Absolute worst thing you can do.
How will you know when all the grease is out?
When you can spin it, dry it out,
Yeah.
completely dry it out, and spin it, and you'll tell if it's picking the needle up nice and smooth. If it just goes donk, stays there, it's still got grease in it.
And you have to re-grease it yourself?
Don't grease it.
Okay.
Just either leave it dry or put a little tiny bit of sewing machine oil on it.
Okay.
Because again, grease will go solid in the end.
Yeah.
All the vapour, I'm trying to think of the right word.
It evaporates?
Yeah, it's not vapour, it's brain's gone. But anyway, it will go solid in the end, so don't grease them.
Yeah.
You just put a little tiny bit of sewing machine oil down where the shaft goes into the bottom and down through where the shaft comes through the face. Just a little tiny, I'm talking tiny bit. Yeah, they're fiddly to get apart, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Obviously. And if you're putting new numbers on, you can set it back to 0, you can do what you like with it. The wind back mechanism for the actual, your trip, not your mileage, your trip one, which you can just set, it's only 3 digits long, and just set it to 0 again. But getting the numbers to stick on them is a pain in the arse. You want to make sure they're absolutely dead clean and a good, really good solvent glue. But don't get it on the numbers, because they'll just wipe off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fiddly job, but you can do it.
Obviously, when we were doing replacing those numbers on the odometer, There's a lot of people who didn't actually watch the whole video and thought we were just clocking the...
No, we set it back to the original mileage, is what he wanted.
But you were just saying that you could do if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, do what you like with it.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it makes the slightest bit of difference on a 1940s Harley, because nobody's going to look at the speed and go, oh, that's original mileage. You've got to be freaking mental.
Yeah.
Could have had 10 Speedos on it over his life.
Could have clocked all the way around.
Yeah, could have gone round and round and round and round. You're never going to find a car, any car, unless it's sealed in a cocoon, motorbike car, that you could say, that's genuine mileage.
Yeah.
You can't do it. It's impossible. Unless you know it's been in your family since the day it was bought, never been played around with, you know. I mean, when I had my TVRs, I was on limited mileage insurance. Just unplug the back of the Speedo. Drive it around for 8 months with no Speedo connected. So it's not the right mileage anyway. Because if I went over 1,500 miles, they'd bang you on the insurance.
But if someone asked you, oh, could you clock this car for me? What would you say?
No, I wouldn't do it. No. The technology today, I don't know, because everything's digital now, isn't it? I don't know whether you can do it with a computer. You might be able to, but actually all that sticking in reverse and running the car doesn't work. Unless you can physically get the whole thing apart, and a lot of the stuff from sort of 80s onwards was all sealed. So you can't get in them anyway. You have to smash the fucking dash binnacle to pieces just to get into it.
Yeah.
You can, what people you like, say that XR2, go to a scrapyard and find one that's got 10,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
Take the whole dash out, put that in it.
Yeah.
That's what people used to do. But actually clocking, you can do it. People who are very specialised will do it. But actually not a good idea, is it? It never is. But you won't find a car probably from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. If once it's gone to digital dash, you can't do shit with it anyway, unless you know how to do it on a computer. And it's all bullshit, really. Cause like I say, you go down a scrapyard.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Speedo up there of a 48 Ford. So that's a 46, 48, I think, Speedo out of a Ford. That's got 197 miles on it.
Wow. Okay.
So the chances of finding something like that, it's obviously sat on a shelf in a spares shop or something. Oh, there you go, February the 4th, 1948.
Wow.
So chances of finding something like that, pretty slim, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But there you go, still works.
Would you say that's kosher?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah, totally. Can't even remember where they came from now. There's a clock there as well. I don't know if that's
Stick
dated.
that in your car that's gone round a few times? And,
Yeah, it's the original clock. I don't know if that's got a date on it. The GOW Borg Corporation. Oh, there you go. So they came out the same car, say 4th of Jan 1948.
Wow.
So if you were restoring a 48 Ford,
Yeah. There you go.
you wouldn't find one of them very often. Everything comes apart. I mean, that's got a bit of a dent in the bezel. You just lever that off, take your lens out, and you clean it all up, you know. 2 centimetres of rain on Thursday.
Yeah, that's your lot.
Cool.